And the cards are cute, not weird looking. Are you trying to say Hearthstone cards are not cute and weird looking? Hey. You got me. We're doing the most disturbing hijackings in TV history. I know about this. Basically. Roughly.
And someone using sophisticated equipment managed to briefly and illegally override broadcast signals.
Watch Mr. Nightmare? Who was Mr. Nightmare? We'll see if I'm up to it. We'll see if I'm up to it. Mr. Nightmare? I think I've watched a video from this guy before. I think I've watched a video from these people, from this individual before. Logic is live? Good for that nigga. Fuck. Fuck that had to do with me, nigga. Oh. Yeah, I guess he is. I guess he is, bro. Anyway.
On WGN-TV and WTTW, who managed to scramble Chicago Airways.
I remember, well, obviously I wasn't alive, I think.
Programming with a show of their own.
But Channel 9 wasn't alone in its Max Headroom appearance. There was even a longer episode on Channel 11, public broadcasting.
And while it may have been a stunt, it is not treated as a joke. Chicago's video pirate could face a jail sentence and fines for his freelance exercise in public access.
McMahon and McKinnon 14-0 Bears. Then the defense, which hadn't put up a sack in 12 quarters, finally did.
This is making it a lot. You know what's crazy is? Isn't this just a kid? Isn't this just some teenager that like just managed to hack the TV like broad like signal waves, whatever? Last week in my country, a Cobra hitched a ride on a plane on the pilot's lap. That's South Africa for you, I guess. I guess.
Headroom incident. This is probably the most infamous and disturbing hijacking in the history of American television, and something you've probably at least heard of. I myself have discussed it briefly before, and there's a reason people are still talking about this case 35 years after it first occurred. It's one of the most intriguing, strange, and creepy incidents to occur on TV, especially because to this day it remains unsolved. But let's take a step back. Well, maybe a few steps.
I thought it was solved.
November 22nd, 1987, 9:14 p.m. WGN-TV is presenting the highlights of the game between the Chicago Bears and the Detroit Lions, when suddenly it is interrupted by this signal.
Which hadn't put up a sack in 12 quarters, finally did.
This shit must have been scary watching it live, bro. I can imagine. Like, this shit just happened, like...
This first initial broadcast hijacking is less well known than the second one, and only lasts about 17 seconds before it is taken off the air. The clip doesn't have any intelligible audio and just contains a static-like buzzing sound throughout the duration of the interruption. However, we do get a look at one of the main suspects, the man wearing a Max Headroom mask, who can be seen moving and bobbing around as what is thought to be corrugated metal is rotated behind him as a sort of background. Shortly after this, when WGN engineers are able to return the broadcast to the football segment, the sports anchor Dan Roan comments,
Well, if you're wondering what's happened, so am I. Actually, the computer that we have running our news from time to time took off and went wild. So what we're going to do is start over from the top with the Bears and tell you once again about the 30-10 victory they had over Detroit today out at Soldier Field.
Let's start off with who or what Max Headroom even is. The character was originally created in 1985 and was advertised as the first ever computer-generated TV presenter. He was portrayed by actor Matt Frewer. and is most well known for, besides this incident, appearing in his own program called The Max Headroom Show, where he interviews guests and even comments on different topics.
I never knew that. I remember Max Headroom. I never knew that he was like the first AI host. Holy shit, that's cool. I'm ancient. This man just said I'm ancient. No. And cobras are poisonous, and we ain't got anti-venom here. So if that snake would have bit someone, it would have been GG, huh? You hate to see it.
But he's also known for being the spokesman for New Coke, as he appeared in many TV ads, especially those that use the catchphrase, "catch the wave." So why was this suspect using a Max Headroom mask? Well, let's first...
That's so crazy to me, Gemini. Snake bites are fatal, or you become Snake Man. Okay, Elizabeth. Okay. Bro, you literally could be my dad. Like, literally. I'm 21. You would have to have me at like 17, but there's a weird incident. I remember that guy was getting spanked. Yeah, he like, so that's what we're like learning right now. Is like just like broadcasts that happened during like a game or something. And
first take a look at the second and most infamous hijacking. On that same night of November 22nd, 1987, at approximately 11:20 p.m., a different TV station, also located in Chicago, called WTTW, was airing episodes of Doctor Who, when their signal was hijacked by the same perpetrators. However, this time, their signal went uninterrupted for almost a minute and 30 seconds, which included full video and audio. Although some of it is hard to understand, and some of what is said is still debated to this day. Still, there's a lot to be gleaned from this interruption. Take a look.
This is some Joker shit. This is like such a like infamous troll, right? This is so iconic or so infamous, if you want to call it that, right? What? Like, I just wonder. This person is probably, well, is a grown adult right now, a full-grown adult. And they probably just vibing, and the whole world has no idea who the hell this guy is, or who this lady is, or whoever they are. Like, imagine, like, you know that it's you, but you can't say it. Never found out how it was? Like, how it was done, I'm assuming? I'd actually cry. As a kid, this shit would have scared the shit out of me. Like as a 6-year-old, 7-year-old, this would have scarred me for life. True.
During the broadcast, we see a video of the man in the mask moving about and making some very strange comments about various topics and people.
Clearly before
He
social media, now
references
that everything's true.
Swirsky and the first station that was initially hijacked, WGN-TV, who he refers to as world's greatest newspaper nerds. And this Chuck Swirsky is also a sportscaster for that same channel. Also, you remember Catch the Wave, the new Coke slogan? He also says that while holding up a can of soda, possibly Coke or Pepsi, it's hard to tell. He then proceeds to sing and hum various tunes, including the 1966 song, I Know I'm Losing You by The Temptations, singing the line, Your Love is Fading. He also hums the theme song of a 1959 cartoon series called Clutch Cargo, and might even in fact reference the show in saying, I still see the X, which could be a reference to the episode Big X, although some people also believe he might have said, I stole CBS. Also, notice the background. It seems like it's rotating, even though it just appears to be a sheet of metal or something similar.
Yeah, I don't understand
why?
that.
Well, some have theorized that this could potentially also be a reference to the moving geometric backgrounds present in real Max Headroom clips. He also possibly references his brother having his other dirty glove. And lastly, we see a cut to a different scene, which, yeah. The Max Headroom guy is getting slapped on the ass with a fly swatter by a different person. Suspect number 2. And what seems to be a woman wearing a maid outfit or something similar. And shortly after this, the broadcast was returned to Doctor Who. So, what just happened? Why? How did it happen in the first place?
I can imagine this shit.
Well, according to WTTW, there were no engineers that were present at the Sears Tower when the transmission was hijacked, meaning nobody at the time could shut it down. Whereas in the case of the first station, WGN-TV, there were engineers present on site and were able to quickly override and terminate the hijacking. Now, unsurprisingly, this incident garnered quite a bit of attention from the media and concerned viewers alike. There had been broadcast hijackings before, but nothing quite like this. There was the Captain Midnight HBO hijacking, which occurred a year prior in 1986, but that was just a simple message to HBO about their pricing, and the man responsible was caught not too long after. This, however, was planned on a much larger scale, and featured full video and audio that went uninterrupted before it was taken off the air, not by the channel or their engineers, but by the pirates themselves. Needless to say, investigation into this incident began almost immediately, with the FCC, the Federal Communications Commission, looking into it, fairly confident that those responsible would be caught. However, it wasn't as simple as they initially believed. What we now know in terms of how the hijackings occurred is that they were done using microwave transmissions which were sent to the station's broadcast towers, which is very interesting for a number of reasons. First of all, these perpetrators had to have substantial knowledge of how signals and broadcasting works for them to be able to hijack not one, but 2 stations, which would have also been a difficult task technically as well. Even if you had the knowledge, it would require a very strong signal to overpower the broadcasts. The pirates also would have had to have been in range of both stations, very close most likely. Definitely narrowing down the suspects to being somewhere in downtown Chicago, near where the station towers were located. However, despite an investigation by the FCC, no one was ever caught in this incident, and in fact, there have been no official suspects or really any strong leads at all. All we really have is circumstantial evidence.
That is
since
crazy.
The hijacking, some people have claimed to either be one of the perpetrators or know who they are, but none of these claims have ever been substantiated, despite the statute of limitations on the crime being surpassed way back in 1992. However, that doesn't necessarily mean we have no idea who did this. There are a number of theories as to who these culprits could actually be. Let's start off with the information we have about the pirates. We know it was perpetrated by at least 2, maybe 3 or more people, based on those acting in the video. Although it's unknown if these persons were involved in the actual hijacking themselves, or if they just performed or helped in the creation of the videos. Like I mentioned earlier, someone among them had to have pretty extensive knowledge of broadcasting and technical skill.
That's
crazy. They must have been
crazy.
present near the 2 stations at the time of the intrusions on
I would think by now they would have more than this, but they don't. Whoever they are, bro. W troll. I ain't gonna lie. Probably former employees. Yeah. Yeah, probably. Probably. That's crazy. That they haven't found out who it is yet. After all this goddamn time, they still haven't found out who it is. That's wild.
On November 22nd, 1987, in downtown Chicago. But what else do we know? Well, it could potentially be a pair of brothers, as the person portraying Max does reference his brother as having the other glove, at least according to analysis of the audio. That sounds like what he says, at least. There is also presumably a female suspect featured in the last part of the video. Also, we know from that scene that this was actually pre-recorded, as it jump cuts to the scene at the end, and it's not a live performance or anything. But the most interesting clue, in my opinion, is this part. This song he's humming is from a very old animated series called Clutch Cargo. In fact, it ran from March 1959 to 1960, 28 years before this hijacking. Which, if the show was part of the suspect's childhood presumably, he would be in the age range of about 30 to 40 when this video was made, due to the cartoon becoming popular in the early 60s. However, this is just pure speculation. Even so, some have crafted some interesting theories on who may actually be behind the Max Headroom mask. Some believe it could have been an employee of WGN, or perhaps a former one based on the comments he made about them in the video, as well as his reference to Chuck Swirsky. While others believe it could have been any random person in the underground hacking communities located around Chicago at that time. It's really hard to determine a suspect in this case, because the motive for the broadcast is unknown. Was it just a joke, a simple prank, or was there a deeper meaning or message behind it? People have been trying to figure it out.
I'm gonna be honest. I don't think so. I think this is just one big troll. I think this is like the baby steps, the seeds, the roots of the internet trolling that we are at right now. This was just the peak back then. I don't think it was anything like, yo, let's try to like hijack the station and then take it over so that we could like, I think it was just a troll. Hardly had hackers in the 80s. Yeah, exactly. So for that to happen back then, that's crazy. That's crazy.
Now for years, but still, we really have no idea what the purpose of this even was, let alone who actually committed it. But there are theories on a few specific people that some believe could be behind it. The first suspect on our list is John R. McDougal, aka Captain Midnight, the same person who jammed the HBO signal and displayed this message on April 27, 1986, a year prior to the Max Headroom incident. But with the first intrusion, McDougal's motive was clear. He was protesting the price increase for HBO's satellite dishes. However, HBO didn't take too kindly to this and promptly contacted the FCC, who launched an investigation and were able to narrow down the list of uplink sites that could have been capable of jamming the signal. And soon it was narrowed down to only 12 stations, at which point all 12 were investigated and McDougal appeared as the prime suspect. As a resident from Wisconsin, just so happened to hear a man bragging over a payphone off Interstate 75 in Florida that he was the one to do it. That witness was able to obtain their license plate number, and sure enough, it was McDougal, who it was found out used a teleport uplink station in Florida to commit the signal intrusion at his second job, as he was an electrical engineer.
I don't understand any of that shit,
guilty
but okay.
to illegally operating a satellite uplink transmitter, and was given a $5,000 fine and 1 year of unsupervised probation. No jail time, technically making it possible that he was the one who committed the Max Headroom incident, as he was familiar with the technology, also grew up in the Chicago area, and also fit the age range of the suspect.
Yeah.
But this theory has quite a few flaws. First of all, the HBO hijacking had a clear goal and motive.
This
no
one
extra
doesn't.
Weird stuff,
Yeah.
no video, no Max Headroom mask. Second of all, he worked alone, unlike the people in the 1987 intrusions. Also, of course, he lived in Florida at the time, so it doesn't make much sense for him to go all the way to Chicago, have access to the equipment necessary for hijacking, commit the intrusion with accomplices, and then go back to Florida and never be caught, despite being found out relatively quickly for the 1986 jamming. All in all, it's unlikely that it was him, although it does make for an interesting story.
I don't know, bro.
In my opinion, this is the most interesting suspect. Not because the evidence is necessarily the strongest, but because of who this is. The person in question is Eric Fournier, who you might recognize for his work under the name Chez St. John, a character featured on a YouTube channel created by Eric that is a model made of mannequin parts. And the videos featuring his character are known for their disturbing and surreal nature, kind of similar to the Max Headroom incident, although that's not evidence of anything. Unfortunately, the original channel has been deleted, however there are many re-uploads of these videos. But the theory that he was behind the Max Headroom incident stems from the fact that he lived in Bloomington, Indiana, which is fairly close to Chicago, and played for a band called the Blood Farmers during this time. How does that mean he's responsible for this, you might ask? Well, I guess rumors spread around that he wanted more exposure for their band and their music videos, and so they used equipment from a local TV station to record a music video and broadcast it, but they didn't want to be caught, so they instead just played some
This is not a doll, Elisma. This is not a goddamn doll. This is a person.
With Eric being the Max Headroom
I think he
guy
took his own life.
Making stuff up as they went. Yeah, this theory isn't very credible and doesn't really make any sense at all. Even his former bandmates have gone on to debunk this theory. His friend and former bandmate Harry Bergen even said this about the rumors. Quote, "This is ridiculous bullshit. Eric didn't know anything about video editing when we were in high school. We never made music videos apart from someone maybe videotaping one of our shows. We weren't friends with anyone getting degrees in mass communications and had no access to broadcast equipment. I think the only time the four of us were ever in Chicago together was to see a Pixies concert at the Riviera." And as for Eric himself, he sadly passed away in 2010 at the age of 42. So yeah, very unlikely that Eric or any of his former band members or associates were involved.
Huh.
And for our last suspects here, we have two brothers.
Thank you for the resubscription. Thank you for the 10 months. Holy, 10 months. Yeah, he did. My friend from college was friends with him. Whoa. Damn, Gemini, you are hooked up in this situation. Like, this is your story, huh? It was you, wasn't it? It was you. Hey, Gemini. We won't say nothing, bro. I promise you, we will be quiet. Was it you, bro? It was you, wasn't it? It was you, gangy. It was you. We won't say nothing, bro. I swear. It will stay in here. Chat. Hey. No clips. On God. It was you, wasn't it? Gemini. Come on, Gemini. Bro was like 4.
Simply called
my fault.
J and K, who are described in a Reddit post from 12 years ago, titled, "I believe I know who was behind the Max Headroom incident that occurred on Chicago TV in 1987. The post describes how the OP grew up in Chicago in the early 80s and was a part of the hacking scene and knew two brothers that he believed were involved. Although he doesn't use any actual names in the post,
the first
he refers
JK.
to them by letters J and K, with him naming J as his primary suspect. He describes one of his get-togethers with them in 1987 at an apartment in LeGrand, Chicago. an apartment owned by K and his girlfriend, as well as another unknown hacker referred to as M. He describes seeing a very elaborate setup in the apartment. However, as I said earlier, he mainly suspected J. This is because he was said to have a disturbing sense of humor, very similar to the guy in the video. But once again, this isn't really proof of anything.
Yeah.
However, he describes another party in the post as such. Quote, Jay was at the party in the apartment that afternoon. I didn't talk with him directly. Me and the friend of mine that I was there with didn't really talk to anybody that day. But I did...
The Men in Black. Oh my god. They are the Men in Black. I didn't realize. They are actually the Men in Black. You are right, Elisma. They are actually just the Men in Black. You're right.
Hear what the others were talking about. They were referring to Jay planning to do something big over the weekend. I remember that word big because it piqued my curiosity as to what might be considered big by their standards. I later asked them collectively during the dinner we all had at Pizza Hut later that night what they were talking about earlier, what big was. And someone, probably K, told me to just watch Channel 11 later.
Okay. Uncle Ian, I do sit-down comedy. Period, Queen.
Later tonight. As a sort of offhanded suggestion, I did happen to be watching Channel 11 later that night, having forgotten about the whole big conversation earlier that day. I saw it, but I didn't put two and two together at the time. I have no idea how he didn't remember that big conversation while watching the channel that same night, or how he didn't put two and two together. But point is, he suspected that Jay was the Max Headroom guy. The brother referred to in the video was his brother K, and the woman was K's girlfriend. However, in a later post, the OP claimed that both Jay and K were formally excluded as suspects in the incident, as he described how he, as well as Rick Klein, the curator of the Museum of Classic Chicago Television, spoke with engineers and technicians working at various Chicago TV stations, including WGN and WTTW, the two stations that were hijacked in '87. Throughout this investigation and interview process, they were able to determine that it was basically impossible for this to have been an outside job, or in other words, someone working at or close to one of these stations would very likely be the ones with the knowledge and technology capable of committing this intrusion.
So it was an inside job.
Looks like it isn't these guys either. So who could it have really been?
Got wiped.
There isn't any solid evidence pointing to any individual or group. All we have is circumstantial evidence and this pretty creepy and disturbing broadcast, which has captivated people for decades due to the mystery and intrigue of why and how such a TV hijacking could take place.
Especially in the 80s. We know some
bits and pieces about the possible identity of the Max Headroom guy, and we now know it likely had to be some sort of inside job. But that's really all we have. So unless someone credible comes forward claiming to know the culprit or claiming to actually be them, it's unlikely this case will ever truly be solved.
That
but
sucks,
maybe there's something
bro.
We missed. Some small clue that could lead us to who really committed the most disturbing hijacking
I just want to know who it is, bro.
TV history.
Damn. I would really like to know who it is, bro. From now on, Gemini is called G. They know too much. Yeah, G. Gemini's G. The Max Headroom dude is a legend. Essentially broadcasted the first ship post, left without explaining, and never was found. True. Theory. I don't think it's weird that they haven't come forward, even though the statute of limitations have run out. Seeing as how smart these people have been to have pulled this off, I think it's very likely they have good careers. If they came forward, they were involved with something like this, I'm willing to bet there's a chance that they get blacklisted from their field. True. That or they passed away. True. Gemini. Hold on, bro. Imagine being a kid watching Doctor Who and seeing that shit. I'll be scarred for life, literally. Like literally. Imagine if it happens again. Same mask, same guy, same station. The internet will go wild. True. True. The internet would go stupid. I feel like the internet would jokerify him. Whoever he is. Whoever they are. The internet would jokerify them. Have you seen the movie The Joker? The one that came out in like 2019? Right? I don't want to spoil anything if you haven't watched it. It's been out for a couple years now. But if you haven't watched it, I won't spoil it. I feel like they're gonna jokerify him though. Like if it happens again and homie does come out and is like, yep, it was me. I feel like the world's gonna be like, oh, you are king. The first shit poster. The first troll. You are our ancestor. Head ass.